Hey Lifestyle Warriors, welcome to the Amazon series where we share with you more about business, personal development and e-commerce in general. So in today's video, I want to share a little bit more about myself and my journey in entrepreneurship and business and how did I start on Amazon. So my name is Benjamin Tan and I'm a Singapore Amazon seller. So a little bit more about my growing up years. I didn't come from a very rich family. My parents made a few bad decisions when I was very young and they lost a lot of money in the stock market. So I remember from young, we didn't have much growing up and we tried to make do with whatever little we had. And growing up, I knew that I told myself that when I am older, I want to be financially free, I want to be rich, I do not want to be a slave to money any longer. And growing up, I was influenced by quite a few books. So I remember that when I was in my 16 or 17s, I started reading more about Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that was the first book that really got my interest in this whole journey of business. And I was reading Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, and he talked about these 4 quadrants, and it's ESBI. E stands for employed, S is self-employed, B is business owners, and I stands for investor. And in the book, it told us that most people, we get stuck at the E, the employed quadrant. And to really move out of the E, we need to go to become a self-employed person and eventually run your own business or be an investor. So that was what I wanted to do. But I grew up in a very traditional household in Singapore. And in Singapore, education is very emphasized upon. And my parents told me that in Singapore, there's only one way to make it up in society. And that is to study hard, to get good grades, go to a good school, get a good job, and get a high-paying job and work for like 40 years before you can retire. So that's what I wanted to do initially. So I tried to apply for university when I was about 20 over years old. But I realized that Singapore, the cost of a degree is very expensive. It's almost about $40,000 and I couldn't afford it, and neither could my parents. So I chose to sign on with the military in Singapore and I signed on as an officer. So that was the only way I could afford to go to university because they gave me a local study award to subsidize my studies. So I remember that at the time, I loved computers. And my parents, my dad is an engineer. So I tried to merge the both together and I ended up applying for computer engineering. And I didn't know that computer engineering was to do with programming and to do with JavaScript. So on my first day of school, I was very confused. I didn't even know what I was studying. And before I knew it, it was like 1 year and I was pretty much lost. So I told myself that, you know what, studying is not my thing. I don't think I can ever make it as a programmer. So at the end of my first year, I chose to do something very drastic. I dropped out of school without telling my parents. So I remember on the day I dropped out of school, I went to the student office and I dropped off that letter that said I wanted to leave school. And I remember that the person at the desk was telling me that, are you sure you want to do this? What's your plan? So I told her that I didn't really have a plan, but I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to do something on my own. So she laughed at me and she said, hey, young guy, you know in Singapore, you need a degree, you need an education. And what's your highest education level? So at that time, I didn't have much. All I had was an A level. And I told her that I will try to make it out there in society. So I remember that was a very painful time in my life because for the next 1 year plus, I was trying many things. I tried to do forex trading. I tried learning about options trading. I tried doing some MLM business, and I tried doing some online business, some little bit of affiliate marketing as well. And in that 1.5 year, I remember that all my friends were still in school, progressing on with their education. My parents, my friends and my relatives, they were all laughing at me. And they were telling me that dropping out of school is one of the worst things you can do in Singapore, especially if you do not have a plan. And especially if you do not have money on that work, then that's a crazy thing to do. But I told myself that I don't want to be like everyone else, and I believe that things would have worked out in the end for me. So after about 1.5, 2 years of struggling, trying to find my way, I decided to go into sales. So I signed up to be a property agent in Singapore. And I remember that at the time, I was really pretty desperate. I was at the end of the road for me. And I told myself that this is the last shot I have of making something work. And if this thing doesn't work, then I really have no way out. I may have to consider going back to school. So I remember that in my first year as a real estate agent, I worked super long hours. I was probably putting in 16 to 18 hours every single day, meeting clients from morning all the way to night. And as a result of working so hard, I won the Top New Achiever of the Year award. And that was the first year that I ever earned a 6-figure income. So that was about 8 years ago, and I still remember it till today. So that was a kind of like a turning point in my life. And I thought that, oh, that's it. I found what I wanted to do in life. I can be a property agent, continue to serve clients, sell houses, and make a lot of money. So I was in the property industry for close to 3 years, from 2011 to about 2014. And in those 3 years, we did pretty well for ourselves. So at that point of time, I was engaged to my wife, and she was helping me out in property as well. And I remember that every single day, from morning to night, I'll be out speaking to clients, prospecting for leads, bringing people to view houses, closing deals, negotiating. And then when I reach home at night, I will have to plan for the next day, start making plans for different clients, looking at their property needs and trying to do all sorts of calculations for them. So while it was a very fulfilling job and the money was really good, after about 2 to 3 years, I started to really get a little tired and burnt out. And I was looking at the Robert Kiyosaki's book again. I was turning back at the page and I was looking at the cash flow quadrant. And I was telling myself, ESBI, which quadrant do I belong to still? So I told myself that as a real estate agent, I still belong to the self-employed quadrant. And the moment I stop working, the income stops as well. So I told myself, let's try something different. How about I move to a business? I tried to go to the business quadrant and we start a business. So me and my wife back then in 2014, we made a decision to leave real estate, and I was looking around for a new business opportunity. And in 2014, I found something that's really interesting, and some of you may have heard of it or may have even tried it before. So I came across a live escape game. So this was in Bangkok, and this game was called Escape Hunt. And I remember that it was the first time I ever tried something like it. I went to Bangkok just for a quick holiday, and I stumbled across it on TripAdvisor. So it was the #1 attraction on TripAdvisor at that point, and I was thinking, this is something very unique, it's something very fresh, it's something that I think would probably be around for a couple more years. So a live escape game, if you're not sure what it is, it's an entertainment concept where there are many rooms in the venue, and you are given a specific time. It could be 60 minutes, it could be 90 minutes, and you get locked up in that room with a group of friends. And within that time frame, you have to solve certain puzzles, solve certain mysteries in order to progress and eventually escape. So when I tried it, I got hooked. And I remember I immediately went to speak to the owner, and I remember that he was a UK person and he was at that branch. So I said, hey, Mr. Paul, are you open to franchise this concept? Because I think there is a demand for this kind of games in Singapore. So I was the first one that spoke to him, and he said, why not? Since he's thinking about franchising it internationally as well. So I took the franchise, and that was sometime in late 2013. So we brought it back to Singapore in 2014. And in 2014, that was in 2015. So we opened this in 2015. And I remember that I had no experience in doing a retail business at all. So it was a very big, very steep learning curve. We had to learn how to renovate the place. We had to speak to contractors. We had to learn how to hire staff. We had to learn how to train our staff up. We had to learn how to run a business that operates 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that was a very challenging period as well. But we learned a lot and we grew as a result. And I remember that when I was running that business, the money was really good, but I had a lot of stress every single day. So I had stress of whether I could meet the payroll for the month, whether I could pay off the rental. My rental was about 18,000 Singapore dollars back then, and we rented a very big venue in Orchard Road. So we had a 2,000 square feet place somewhere in downtown Orchard Road. It's a prime district, and it was a nice place. We put in a lot of money to renovate the place very nicely. So our venue, our place, our shop is called Escape Hunt Singapore. And I remember that we were doing pretty well at a point, up to there was once we were rated the #1 attraction in Singapore on TripAdvisor. So we had a lot of customers, we had a lot of reviews, and a lot of tourists that come to our place. But I remember that we were equally busy, if not more busy, as compared to my real estate days. Because there was a lot of issues that I had to settle at the shop, and I couldn't find someone to take over all these issues. So we had some sort of like a branch manager, but that person couldn't make a lot of crucial business decisions day to day. And that still required me and my wife to be present. So we were there at the shop almost every day for about 2 years. And it got to a point where I got very tired as well. So I started telling my wife that, you know what, this business is good, it's fun, the money is great, but it's almost the same as real estate. We are still self-employed, running the business, and it doesn't operate like a true business. So we made a decision in 2016 to let go of the business. We listed it for sale, we found an investor, and we cashed out at a pretty good multiple. So that was in late 2016, and I was looking for something new to do. And this time I told myself that the next business I do, it must be something online. So I saw that e-commerce was a growing trend, and I know that probably this will be the next trend for the next few years, and I don't want to miss out on this. And I told myself that the next business must also be very scalable, it must be sustainable, and most importantly, it must be able to give me time and location freedom. And I told myself that I don't want to have to keep working on the business every single day, day in, day out. I wanted it to be more passive so that I could put in as much or as little time as I wanted. But even when I wasn't really actively working on it, I wanted the business to still bring in income for me. So I was looking at a few different business models when I started out in late 2016. I was looking at doing a dropshipping business using Shopify. And I was also looking at Amazon FBA. And after weighing the pros and cons of both models, I eventually decided that Amazon is more sustainable, it's more long-term, and I can really do this for the long term. And that was my journey of how I got started in Amazon FBA. So fast forward till today, now it's December 2018, it's been close to 2 years. We started selling only in March 2017. So it's been coming to 2 years now, and we've sold over 2 million US so far. And I would say that the journey has been really rewarding, really fun, really fulfilling. We've learned so much about how to start an e-commerce business using Amazon as a platform. And I would say that if I haven't found Amazon, my life today would be totally different. I wouldn't be able to spend so much time with my family, and I wouldn't be able to enjoy the lifestyle I enjoy today. So today our lifestyle is, I don't really have to wake up to an alarm clock. I'm able to go for meals at off-peak timings, and usually I realize that restaurants and cafes love to give like 50% off during off-peak timings, and that's where we go in and we really take advantage of it. And we are also able to travel when people are generally not traveling. So air ticket prices are cheaper, the places we go are also less busy, and we really can spend so much more time with our family and with my young son. So that's my journey, that's my experience with Amazon so far. And if that's something you are looking for and something that you want in your life, then I want to encourage you. Start looking more into starting an online business, something like Amazon, because Amazon is a very passive business and it's truly a lifestyle business once you set it up one time correctly. So I hope that my story has inspired you, has given you an idea of something that you may want to consider. And I hope that this video has helped you somehow. So if you like our videos, you can click here to watch more of our other videos, and you can subscribe to our channels, and we'd love to share more with you in the future. So I will see you in the next video.